I'll focus on the broad theme of friendship and how Balaram is Krishna's best friend. And we'll talk about this in, depending on how much time allows, we'll talk about 4 broad areas. If we look at Krishna's life, it begins in Vrindavan. Then from there, Krishna comes to Mathura. From Mathura, Krishna goes to Dwarka. And after Dwarka, while he is based in Dwarka, he goes to various places for various purposes. And there, a major role comes in Kurukshetra, or more broadly, with the Kuru dynasty, you can say. So, one of the most important things that friendships provide us is a sense of stability amid change. Many things friendship provides us, but one of the things is when life changes, when something goes wrong and something becomes different, at that time, if we have a true friend, we can count on that friend. We may lose a job, we may face a setback in an exam, we may experience a loss in a relationship. When these things happen, at that time, it is our friends that we turn to. And to the extent we have friends that we can count on, our life is rich with valuable relationships. Now, Krishna and Balaram, in the manifest Lila, are brothers. Now, brothers grow up together, but that does not necessarily mean brothers will be always close friends. Many times, there's a complex dynamic in the relationship. So here, we can talk about the Krishna-Balaram relationship in terms of Tattva and in terms of Leela. So today I'll focus primarily on the Leela. In terms of Tattva, Krishna and Balaram both are manifestations of divinity. So Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and Balaram is his first expansion. So Balaram is considered the spiritual master, the Guru. And Balaram engages everyone in the service of the Lord. But he's God who himself serves God and who engages others in the service of God. So in the spiritual journey, Krishna is God and Balaram is God as Guru. And in our spiritual journey, there's a transition. While as long as we are materially conditioned, that means we are not yet pure, then it is largely Balaram who guides us to Krishna. And then once we have become purified, then once we are pure, then it is Radharani who guides us to Krishna. That means at that particular point, it is as if we are relocated in the spiritual world. And in the spiritual world, in Vrindavan, the service of Krishna is under the supervision of Radharani. Radharani has her expansions as Yogamaya, Radharani has expansions as Vrindadevi. And they may all engage the devotees in Krishna's service. So for sadhakas, Balaram as Guru plays a very important role. That's the tattva. So whoever spiritual master we have, whether it's Diksha Guru or the Shiksha Guru, is said to be a representative of Balaram. I'll cycle back to this point at the end of the class. But at this point, we'll focus on the Leela part and we'll see how Krishna and Balaram are the best of friends. In fact, we can say Balaram is practically the only pure constant in Krishna's life. If you see, Krishna's life is in many ways quite dramatic. Right from his birth, the threat to his life, and then he has to live in the dark to survive. Now, of course, Krishna is God and is omnipotent, but within his Leela, he doesn't always manifest in omnipotence. So when he's in Vrindavan, and then when he comes to Mathura, and then he goes to Dwarka, the only person consistently with him among his peers is Balaram. Just like when we are in school, we may have many good friends. But then we go to college, not many of our school friends may come to the same college. So like that, Krishna is in Vrindavan, he has many close friends. And there is Sudama, there is Madhumangal, the whole concept of Krishna, all of these are close friends. But then duty calls Krishna, he has to go to Mathura. And now naturally when we go to a new place, we make new friends. So in Mathura, Krishna befriends Uddhava, who soon becomes a very close friend of him. But then through it all, Krishna has Balaram with him. Now we can say that there's one more character who is with him, that is Rohini. That is Balaram's mother. And she is in Vrindavan and she is in Mathura also. But she is in a different generation. And Krishna cannot pour out his heart to her as much as he can to Balaram. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. And then they go after that to Dwarka together. And Krishna and Balaram often fight wars together. So it is with respect to Vrindavan, it is their relationship very symbolic. See, when our eyes are focused on the spiritual world, we are united. But when we focus on the material world and have to deal with the material world, even two people who are very united will have different opinions about how to deal with things in the material world. As far as the principle of serving Krishna is considered, we can be completely united. But the practice of serving Krishna, how do we do that? That means that, okay, if we want to hold a festival, should we hold it in this place or that place? There are two places we can hold a festival. We have to decide that. If we want to expand our outreach, should we go to this college or that college? If we cook food, should we cook for 100 people, should we cook for 50 people? It depends. There is always difference of opinion. So, but that difference of opinion is also dealt with in a beautiful way. Krishna and Balaram, when with respect to Vrindavan and with respect to Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra broadly represents the material world. Vrindavan represents the spiritual world. So there is unity. And here there is difference of opinion. And we will discuss both of these a little bit more. And we'll focus on a few more incidents. We will go through the entire life of Balaram. So when Krishna and Balaram are growing up, they are naturally the best of friends. Although Balaram is slightly older than Krishna, but still, more or less they grew up as equals. Balaram is the elder brother, and sometimes even there are twins. Now one of the twins might be like 6 seconds older than the other twin. But that twin will never let the other twin forget, I am older. So, there's always a consciousness that Balaram is the older, Tauji, as he is known. But still they are close friends. And among the two, Krishna is the more adventurous, the more mischievous. And Balaram is the more mature, the more stable person. But sometimes Krishna brings out the mischievous nature in the Balaram also. And then normally when it is Krishna the butter thief, not Balaram the butter thief. So it is Krishna who is mischievous. And whenever they are in dangers, Yashodamai says that Krishna, you follow Balaram, you will be protected. When they are small babies growing up, in developmental psychology, children, when they grow, they slowly start identifying things. So it is described when Gargamuni gives them the names, Krishna and Ram, Balaram. So they both don't understand their names first. So when Krishna is called, both of them turn and go. Balaram is called, both of them turn and go. And then the mother, Krishna is called, and the mother comes and picks up only Krishna. And Balaram, what did I do wrong? Why did I pick me up? And then Balaram is called, Krishna wonders why he is not picking me up. And then slowly they start understanding, okay, Krishna is my name, and Balaram is his name. So that's how, right from the beginning, they are very closely bonded to each other. And then as they grow up, they go out cow herding together, and during that they have those childhood moments where they have adventures, and something which threatened to be misadventures, the demons come in. But Krishna protects them, Balaram protects them. The demon like Dhenukasur, which is specially dealt with by Balaram. And then gradually they grow up. And as they grow up, then there's the inevitable moment of transition that comes up. And see, when things are steady and normal, at that time, our friendship will be formed. But it is when things start becoming turbulent, that's when the friendship is tested. So that moment of test comes for Krishna when he goes to Mathura. This is the first major moment in Krishna's life when a big transition is happening. Vrindavan is like a small village and Mathura is a huge city. So the boys are naturally excited to go there. When Akrura comes and calls them to come, so they go. Now Nanda Maharaj is the leader of the Vrajavasis, but he is, although we talk about Kshatriyas as leaders, actually every group has its leaders. Vaishyas also have their leaders, Brahmanas also have their leaders. Like we have Durvasa Muni as the leader of all his disciples. So every group has its leaders, but certain leaders, those are like leaders of society. So Kshatriyas have to be diplomatic, Kshatriyas have to be sometimes shrewd and wily at times. Nanda Maharaj is not of the suspicious kind. Kshatriyas, they are often, why is this person thinking like this? Kshatriyas are not that easily trusting. So Nanda Maharaj is unsuspecting. He just comes and is calling Krishna. Now at that time the question may come, this is the king of the country. Why is the king calling Krishna just to come and watch a wrestling match? It's like, okay. Like say, in India, Pakistan, India, Australia, World Cup match is going on, the Prime Minister is going to watch it. And the Prime Minister comes to some village, sends a message to the village, and this boy from the village, I want him to come and watch the match with me. What's going on? Why? What did this boy do exactly? So now, is this a favor or is it a disfavor? What is it? But what Nanda Maharaj knows enough is that the king's summons cannot be refused. Nanda Maharaj has known about how Kamsa has overthrown his father, Ugrasen, and become the king. And he has threatened Vasudev's children. But a person might be cruel with someone else, but if that person is powerful, we maintain our relationship with that person. So Nanda Maharaj would be very prompt in making sure that he went and paid the taxes to Kamsa. Or that Kamsa would not have any reason to be angry with the Vrajavasis. That way, Nanda Maharaj was quite careful about protecting the interests of the Vrajavasis. And so when the king called, there's a reason he had to go immediately. Now when they went there, at that time, there was a classic fight with Krishna and Balaram. both together defeated all the wrestlers over there. Now Krishna and Balaram had performed many pastimes in Vrindavan where the demons had been killed. Now from Kamsa's perspective, he was never really sure whether Krishna is the person who is prophesied to be his killer. He thought about it. That was not a time where you had CCTV or drone or mobile footage. So, Kamsa would send a demon to Vrindavan, and all that he would know is the demon would die. How exactly he died? There was some understanding that he had been sent to kill Krishna, so Krishna was still killed. So he had some sense that Krishna is powerful. But how powerful is Krishna? So then the Bhagavad Gita says, when you go to the spiritual world, you never come back. For the demons, it was like, Yadgatva. They would go to Vrindavan and they would never come back to me. So Kamsa had some suspicion that Krishna must be very powerful and very dangerous. And thus he thought the best way to deal with Krishna is to lure him to my capital. And there I will destroy him. Now, accordingly, he called Krishna, and then he had multiple plans. He had first the elephant Kuvalya pit. His plan was that, okay, from a small village, a kid comes to a big city, and in big city things happen. The kid might be inexperienced, the kid might be unaware, and the kid didn't notice, and he got trampled under an elephant. So Kamsa wanted to maintain his image also. That, it's not that I killed him, he just died in an accident. So that was his plan A. So Krishna not only killed Kuvalya pit, Krishna actually took out his tusk and came into the assembly with the tusk. So what happened over here? This was the most powerful elephant. And then he said, okay, have Krishna and Balaram fight with the wrestlers. At one level, this was unfair. These wrestlers are professional wrestlers, and Krishna and Balaram are small kids. And even many of the observers of the fight were appalled to see this. They felt it would be like a slaughter of these boys. But Kamsa insisted, you kids, you wrestle in Vrindavan, in the forest, and I have heard that you have killed many demons. So exhibit your skills. That's the time when Krishna and Balaram exhibited their abilities. This was, in one sense, the first very public exhibition of Krishna's fighting skills and Balaram's fighting skills. If we look at the dangers that Krishna faced in Vrindavan, Krishna did not want his devotees, the Vrajavasis, to be endangered. That's why only the first three demons, they are dealt with in Krishna's home. There's Putana, then there's Trunava, then there's Shaktasura. But Krishna still, even in this case, Krishna could have killed Putana as soon as she came in and he started sucking her breast. But Krishna let Putana live long enough so that she ran out of Vrindavan. He was trying to shake Krishna away, trying to push Krishna off her breast. Krishna held on. Krishna let her run out of Vrindavan. That eventually when she fell, she did not destroy anything valuable or hurt anybody in Vrindavan. Similarly, Trunava came as a storm. Now Krishna could have become a right heavy immediately and just not allowed Trunava to even take him into the sky. But Krishna wanted to enjoy a free air ride. And then after that, he became heavy, unbearably heavy, at a time when Trunava was in the sky but not right above Vrindavan. And when he fell, another Vrajavasis were injured. The Shaktasura was a cart, he came and Krishna just destroyed him. But after that, all the demons were outside of Vrindavan. And Krishna would be in the forest. So the Vrajavasis themselves would not be endangered. So the only time the Vrajavasis had first hand seen Krishna's prowess was two main times. One was with Vraja-lila, where they actually saw Krishna lifting Govardhan. But that was not exactly fighting demons. The second was in the Kali-Adama-lila. But the Vrajavasis had never seen Krishna fighting. And they were also amazed. So Krishna and Balaram were working together, taking it out one after another after demons, of the wrestlers who were basically demoniac. And normally, if one wrestler has to fight with many wrestlers, although those wrestlers did not attack them simultaneously, still, as a wrestler, as a person, you get tired. So fighting with the first person is, okay, you have energy. You defeat the first person, you fight the second person, the energy level has gone down. The third person, the energy level has gone down. And then slowly, it becomes easier and easier for the opponent, the fourth or the fifth or the sixth opponent, to defeat. But in this case, as Krishna and Balaram, it is the first fight that goes on for a long time. Second fight is shorter. Third fight is way shorter. So, Krishna and Balaram are coming into full form and he is knocking out. And that's when Kamsa sees that everything that is meant to go according to his expectations is going the exact opposite. And then Kamsa decides that this is an emergency. He orders all his soldiers to say, attack Krishna and Balaram. Not only attack Krishna and Balaram, he says, arrest the Vrajavasis. Take away all their wealth. He says, arrest Nanda. Arrest Nanda and Yashoda. Yashoda is not there. Arrest Nanda. Arrest Vasudeva and they put him again in jail. So he starts panicking because he thinks the threat is huge. And when Krishna sees there is a threat to the Vrajavasis, till this time the Vrajavasis have been enjoying the spectacle of Krishna defeating the wrestlers. But that's the time when Krishna decides enough is enough. Krishna, so the wrestling arena is, you might have seen this Greek amphitheaters, where it's like a sliding platform where the spectators are watching and the performers, the wrestlers or fighters are in between. So this was not exactly like that, but it is something. Kamsa was seated on a very high seat, and from there he could watch Krishna and the wrestlers fighting. So Kamsa had taken out his sword, but Krishna just jumped up right on top to where Kamsa was. And Krishna just was so lightning fast that Kamsa had his sword, but before he could bring his sword on Krishna, Krishna was on him. And Krishna started beating him. Krishna dragged him down from the top down to the wrestling arena. And he, in one sense, this is the climax. Isn't it? All the demons who have come till now. Oh, it's like there's a villain, the villain hires some contract killers. And the villain sends the contract killers, and one by one the hero kills them. And then finally, in the end of the movie, the hero confronts the villain. Isn't it? So this is like the final confrontation. And in one sense, this is supposed to be like a spectacular confrontation. But that climax is in some ways an anticlimax. Because Kamsa can't put up any fight at all. It's like Krishna, it's not that Krishna has to use some Brahmastra or something like that. Krishna just pounds, punches Kamsa, and Kamsa dies. And then after that, Krishna just drags Kamsa around. The dead body of Kamsa just drags around. So here, the point that is being done, yes, it seems to be like a very unspectacular fight. But the spectacle is in how unspectacular it is. For both the Vrajavasis and the Mathuravasis, Kamsa has been a deadly terror. Kamsa has persecuted the Yadus so much, and that's why the Yadus have become scattered. Some of them are staying over there and they're acting as if they're supporting Kamsa. So Akrura was among them. Some of them had just left and gone to other places And instead other kingdoms, if those kings were related to them through marriages or whatever, some of them had just gone into hiding. Some of them had been arrested like Vasudeva and Devaki. And sometimes they would be released, sometimes again they would be arrested. So Kamsa had been like an unchallengeable tyrant. And that person who had struck terror in the hearts of the Yadus, Krishna wanted to show that he is absolutely no threat to me. That person who is supposed to be so deadly is actually a pathetic loser. He's just destroyed effortlessly. So this is the spectacle is in how one-sided the match is. So the idea is that Kamsa is utterly powerless in front of Krishna. In fact, through this, Krishna totally addresses the fears of the Yadus. Because while Kamsa is a tyrant, but he is also allied with other people. He also has friends. And the Yadus still have that fear that even if Kamsa is killed, still what about the other tyrants? They may come back and they may hit back at us. So it's like if there are terrorist groups, it's not just one terrorist group is there. You eliminate one terrorist group, they are allied with other terrorist groups. And whoever eliminated them, the terrorist group will come and try to attack those people. So they have that fear. But when Krishna shows how effortlessly he destroys them, he reassures the Yadus. And Balaram is right there with him. So Balaram knows this is Krishna's movement. So Balaram is quite active in dispensing of the wrestlers. But with respect to Kamsa, Balaram lets Krishna do it alone. He knows this is Krishna's movement. And then, when this prophecy is fulfilled, when Kamsa is killed, all the Yadus start celebrating. And then the Yadus come and offer the throne, offer the crown to Krishna. Now, from Krishna's perspective, there is, or from the Vrajavasi's perspective certainly, and from Krishna's perspective partially, from the Vrajavasi's perspective, they never accept that Krishna is anyone other than their child. And yes, Krishna is our child and he's a wonderful hero. So he's a wonderful hero. So when the Yadus offer this particular crown to Krishna, Krishna says, I am not Vrajavasi. When Krishna has promised the gopis that I'll come back soon, I'll come back in a few days, Krishna actually has a full intention to keep that promise. He says, Kamsa is called, I'll go and visit Mathura and I'll come back. But when the Yadus offer this crown, he says, I'm not Vrajavasi. He says, no, you are the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. He says, no, I was born in Vrindavan. He said, no, it was the prophecy that it is Devaki's 8th child who will kill Kamsa. And you have killed Kamsa. Therefore, you are Devaki's 8th child. At that time, there was no DNA testing. So, Krishna is not ready to accept. Then the Yadus tell him that you have killed Kamsa and you have done a great favor to us. But Kamsa has powerful allies and they will come to attack us now. And not only that, Kamsa has also made many enemies. And they will think now that Kamsa, without Kamsa being there, the kingdom is vulnerable. So both to protect us from Kamsa's friends and Kamsa's enemies. So that is when the Gopal Champu of Jiva Goswami described that Krishna agrees. So Krishna does not immediately accept that I am Yadu. But he says that it is my duty to protect. And thus he agrees to stay. Now from Krishna's perspective, it is a huge change. It's a child who has stayed in one place throughout his life, and there is no preparation also. Like if a child is going to go into college, is going to stay in hostel, and the mother and the father are preparing the child. Now you'll be away from us, now you should learn to do this, you can learn to do that, you can learn to do that. So there is no preparation, either from Krishna's side or from Nanda Maharaj Yashoda's side. And then the Yadus don't know how close is the bond between Krishna and the Vrajavasis. So now, at this point, from the Vrajavasis, it is Nanda Maharaj who has come there. Yashoda has not come there at all. So for Krishna, now he has to stay on Mathura, and Krishna never gets to even say a proper farewell to Yashoda. That person who is so dear to him, and that person for whom he is so dear. It's just separation. Like somebody who is a very close friend, and they go, and we don't even properly say goodbye. Or it's like we expect them to go for 2-3 days and come back, and they're gone forever. And it is quite unbearable. So then, at that time, the responsibility falls on Krishna to tell Nanda Maharaj that I am going to stay here. And Nanda Maharaj is in a very jubilant mood. Our child Krishna killed Kamsa. That which all these great Kshatriyas could not do, our Vaishya boy did that. And he's very happy. And he's thinking that the Yadus are honoring him, they are felicitating him. But then he is in a very jubilant mood, and when Krishna comes to see him, he says, Krishna looking very somber. He says, Krishna, what happened? And then Krishna says, that based on that prophecy that the 8th child of Devaki will kill Kamsa, the Yadus are saying that I am their son. And they are saying because Kamsa's friends and his enemies will attack Mathura, I should stay here to protect them. Maharaj just cannot accept this. He says, Krishna, if you stay here, then we will stay here with you. Krishna becomes grave. Krishna says, no. We are cowherd. And our purpose, our dharma is to serve the cows. And you have hundreds and thousands of cows. There will not be enough grazing land for the cows here. Therefore, you should go to Vrindavan. And then Nanda Maharaj says that we will come every week to see you. And Krishna becomes very grave. And Krishna says, no, you can never come to see me. And I can never come to see you. And the Maharaj's heart almost stops. He says, why? He says that now that Kamsa's friends will be targeting me, they are cruel people. They will not just target me, they will target anyone who loves me and whom I love. If they come to know how dear you are to me, they will intentionally attack Vrindavan. And if I am in Mathura protecting Mathura, I cannot simultaneously be there in Vrindavan to protect Vrindavan. Therefore, we should act as if there is no long-lasting relationship between us. That Vrindavan was just some place I stayed in for safety while Kamsa was ruling. But once the danger is over, we should make it appear to the world as if I have no connection with Vrindavan. And that is how all of you will be safe. And the Maharaj is thinking that our bodies may be safe, but our hearts will be utterly shattered without you, Krishna. Only with you not there, we cannot even come and see you. But reluctantly, the Maharaj agrees. And that is the reason why during Krishna's stay in Mathura, although the gopis are often so much separation from Krishna, the gopis don't go to Mathura to see Krishna. And Krishna does not go to Mathura to see Vraja-lilas. And then, Krishna plays this duty that he's called upon to do. He plays this role. Sometimes we may ourselves be in grief. But somebody else is in grief, what happens is, we just said we have to be strong for them. So now we can be strong. Krishna tries to be strong in front of Nanda Maharaj. But Krishna is himself internally shattered. Everyone whom he loves is gone. Consider Krishna is just an 8-10-year-old child at this time. And suddenly you transplant that child from one house to another house and tell him, that is not your mother, father, this is your mother, father. It's very disorienting for the child. So, and Vasudeva notices. Vasudeva and Devaki are very happy to have their child back. Vasudeva knows this is that Krishna, while he is very respectful to both of them, there is not the natural affection that a child has toward the parents. He is not able to call him, it doesn't refer to Devaki as the mother with the same affection that a child should have. So Vasudeva starts thinking and he says it's time to call Rohini also back. So Rohini was a person who was there in Krishna's childhood also. So when she comes back, Krishna and Balaram both run to her and they hug her legs. And they pour out their heart, telling what is happening now. Now, from the Yadu's perspective, they're very happy to have Krishna back. But just after a few moments of talking with Krishna, they start understanding how much Krishna loves Vrindavan. And the Yadu's greatest fear is that Krishna will leave them and go to Vrindavan. And that's why what the Yadus try to do is, they try to make Krishna forget Vrindavan. And normally, children are very responsive. If the parents do something, if a child does something and the parents or the elders are displeased, then the child stops doing that. Unless the child wants to be rebellious or mischievous. And Nanda Maharaj tells Krishna, you obey Vasudeva just as you obey me. He is your father now. So Krishna is respectful. And Krishna sees that when naturally he wants to talk about Vrindavan and Vraja-lilas. But when he sees that the Mathuravasis are disapproving, he stops talking about that. So not only is he separated from the people who he loves, but he now cannot even talk about it. So at that time Rohini comes and they tell her, oh Rohini, what is happening? And Rohini says, I will talk with the Mathuravasis. And then Rohini tries to explain how much the Vraja-lilas loved Krishna and how much Krishna loved the Vraja-lilas. Now, the Mathuravasis, the Yadus, they are especially concerned about keeping Krishna in Mathura. They tell Rohini, you are supposed to be one among us. Why are you on their side? Did the Vraja-lilas give you so many sweets that you got on their side after that? What kind of sweets did they feed you? We will feed you those sweets. You should come back on our side. And they become suspicious of Rohini also. So then Rohini throws up her hand and says, I cannot do anything. And thereafter, the only person that Krishna can pour out his heart to is that Now, Balaram's loyalty is not suspect. Everybody knows Balaram is Vasudev's son. And nobody thinks Balaram will leave Mathura and go to Vrindavan. Because there is no ambiguity about his parentage. Rohini is Vasudev's wife. And yes, Balaram was born in Vrindavan, but he was always unambiguously the son of Vasudeva. So the Krishna and Balaram are there together, and that's when many times Krishna and Balaram just sit together. When they are growing up also they stay, although they have a separate royal room, they stay in the same room, they sit and they talk. And Krishna pours out his heart, remembering the Vrajavasis, remembering the Gopis, remembering the Gopas. And Balaram shares those memories. That's the time when they come especially close to each other. And then, just when Krishna is slowly forming bonds with Vasudeva and Devaki, Krishna is forming bonds with the Yadus. That is the time he is sent to the Guru. And it's like one change after another after another. Again, for him, only constant is Balaram. Now, Krishna at external level is very diligent in doing his duties. He serves his Guru well. He learns what is to be learned in the Gurukul. Now, Krishna is already not very. He is not 5 years old. He is a little older at this particular point. And the Yadus are concerned that if any of the enemies of Kamsa or any of the allies of Krishna and allies of Kamsa and the friends of and the enemies of Krishna come to know, either they may come to know that Krishna is not in Mathura and they may attack Mathura, or if they come to know that Krishna and Balaram are alone in Sandipani Muni's ashram, they may attack that ashram. So when Vasudeva sends Krishna and Balaram, he does not send them in royal chariots. He tells them to go almost incognito. And when they come there, they are in the Gurukul, but they are like in an accelerated learning program. Vasudeva wants them to come back as quickly as possible. But it is at Sandipani Muni's ashram that Krishna feels even more the separation from Vrindavan. Because Mathura is like a city and the environment is very different from Vrindavan. But the Gurukul is in a forest. And the forest reminds Krishna of the forest of Vrindavan. And that's why while Krishna is learning and Krishna is serving his Guru, but during the private time that they have, at night Krishna's eyes are filled with tears and Krishna and Balaram hug each other and they bathe each other's body with tears as Balaram tries to console Krishna. Now, Balaram is also attached to Vrindavan, but Krishna's attachment to Vrindavan is of a different degree. For Krishna, the Vrajavasis were everything. And somehow Krishna is solaced by Balaram so that he navigates through those days. It is then that he comes back to Mathura. And then soon Mathura is attacked again and again by demons. Especially Jarasandha keeps attacking again and again. And then Krishna and Balaram have to spring into action to defend. Now, if you see in Vrindavan, all the fighting is just more like play. Bala Kridana Kamiva. In Vrindavan, Krishna does not use any weapons to fight. This Krishna just expands his hand, and the hand goes in the mouth of a giant horse. Krishna just goes inside the body of a demon. And from there, he performs an internal surgery. So it's all very playful over there. But now, outside Vrindavan, it's dead earnest. So Krishna and Balaram, they have to fight And so this is a different role, where now they are not just Gopas who are fighting against, like having fun while fighting against some demons. Here the Kshatriyas, they are protecting their kingdom, they are protecting their loved ones. And one after another, rows of demons keep coming. And each time Jarasan's army comes, so Jarasan tries to sneak in on Krishna from different ways. And many times he passes by Vrindavan. Each time the Vrajavasis come to know that the invading army is coming, they leave their homes, they take all their cows and their family members and they go and hide in the caves of Govardhan. And that way they try to stay safe. Krishna's concern is that these are demoniac armies. And if while passing by Vrindavan, they might just decide to ransack Vrindavan, plunder Vrindavan. And then Krishna decides the only way to keep the Vrajavasis safe is to go far away from them. And thus, at an external level, Krishna relocates the Mathuravasis from Mathura to Dwarka to protect them from attacks. At an internal level, it is to protect the Vrajavasis from attacks. So, whatever Krishna is doing, it is out of love for the Vrajavasis. But one of the most painful things in life is when we do something out of love for someone else, but that person misunderstands us. And that person starts thinking, why are you doing this? So the Vrajavasi is, what happens is that Nanda Maharaj has been told that you cannot come here. But they keep sending spies to come to know about Krishna's welfare. And one day those spies come to Mathura. There's no one in Mathura. What happened? Where did they go? And then Krishna sends them a Krishna after some time sends a message that I have relocated to Dwarka. So the Vrajavasis are utterly devastated. And Krishna knows how devastated they are. But Krishna feels, this is what I need to do for the safety. That is the time when it's the Balaram alone who consoles Krishna, who reassures Krishna that although even the Vrajavasis may not be understanding what you are doing is in their best interests. And in that way, it is while going through pain, while going through the pain of separation, the pain of being lost, from being distanced from the loved ones, being sometimes misunderstood by the loved ones, that Balaram stands by Krishna's side. So that is the first part. And the other part, we'll discuss about Kurukshetra. This is complicated. I'll make it as simple as possible. As I said, when we face the material world, there will always be differences of opinion of how best to approach the material world, how best to do things in this world. So, while Krishna and Balaram are always close, not just brothers, but also friends, and they're united. But their difference of opinion comes out very clearly in the Kuru conflict. Krishna and Arjuna develop a natural friendship. And that friendship becomes the defining relationship, at least one of the defining relationships in Krishna's post-Vrindavan pastimes. That's the basis of the Bhagavad Gita. That's also a key part of the Mahabharata. But just as Krishna develops a friendship with Arjuna, Balaram develops a relationship with Duryodhana. Now, because of this relationship, there is these mutual relations that develop, there is conflict among them. So the idea that if two people are friends, they should always agree with each other, or they should always have the same interests, the same friends, that is a utopian idea. We may be friends, but still we are individuals, and we will have individual opinions. So Balaram wants Subhadra to be married to Duryodhana. And Krishna wants to... Now from Balaram's perspective, the Kuru dynasty is a powerful dynasty, and in those times the marriages were more of military alliances. That is, the idea, it's only in the recent few decades or few centuries that marriages have been associated primarily with romance. It is in the past, marriage was an obligation, it was a duty. And then, of course, there has to be some affection between the husband and wife. But marriages were mostly for economic, political, strategic purposes. And then eventually people get married and they raise a family. So Balaram was well intentioned. He thought that the Kurus are the well established dynasty. And whatever be the internal conflict between the two of them, it is Duryodhana who has power, right? It is Dhritarashtra who has power and Duryodhana who has power. So now whatever evil things were attributed to Duryodhana, those were all suspicions, all allegations. None of them was proven as such. Yes, the Varanavas had caught fire, the Bhima had been poisoned, but who was behind it? So it was not unambiguously clear. So the fact that Duryodhana had power, so he thought, Balaram thought that Subhadra would be best, if she's married, she would be safe. But then Krishna had other plans. So Krishna thought that the Pandavas will become Pandavas will become strengthened if we are allied with them. And then naturally, eventually the final decision came that Subhadra herself was attracted to Arjuna. Arjuna was attracted to Subhadra. So then Krishna arranged for both of them. And when Balaram felt enraged. He said that, now how dare this Arjuna, he has abducted a daughter from our family. So Krishna said, is that an abduction? Did you see who was driving the chariot? While Arjuna was fighting, Subhadra was driving the chariot. So he said, this is what Subhadra wanted. She's our sister. So we should be happy that she is happy. So this is Balaram says that Krishna, whatever you want to do, you can persuade anyone about it. So he doesn't say it in the appreciative way. He says it in an angry way. But from this point onwards, there are some differences. As I said, now from Balaram's perspective, Balaram is the Guru. And the Guru is expected to be compassionate. So Balaram, whatever be the flaws of Duryodhana, he feels that even Duryodhana can be delivered. Even Duryodhana can be transformed. And when the gambling match happens and when Draupadi is dishonored, at that time, Balaram and Krishna both come in the forest when the Pandavas are staying in exile in Kamyavan, and then both of them are enraged at what has happened. And Krishna assures Draupadi, those who have humiliated you, those who have caused your tears to fall, they will be given justice. So at that time, Balaram can't believe what has been done. And he goes to Duryodhana to confront Duryodhana. Now Duryodhana is expert. So Duryodhana spins his own story. And Duryodhana says that Duryodhana tells Balaram something, and then when at the end of the exile, when they are all assembled together in Virat, where the wedding of Abhimanyu is to happen with Uttara. At that particular point, they are discussing what to do next. So Balaram is initially very angry with Duryodhana. But here Balaram says that Yudhishthir, when you approach Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, you need to have some humility. It is, you lost the kingdom, it is your mistake. It is you gambled everything away. So it is your mistake, and therefore you should approach with humility, not with entitlement. The Pandavas are taken aback. What has happened over here? Balaram seemed to be so supportive. They realized that Duryodhana must have spun his side of the story. Now what happened is that there is, if you hear any complaint, oh, this person did like this person did like that. Now there is one side of the story and there is the yes, there's one side of the story, there's the other side of the story, and then there is the story. Neither side has a complete story. So from any objective perspective, you could say, how could anyone dishonor a respectable lady like Draupadi in public? Whatever be the circumstances, how could Duryodhana do something like that? How could the whole assembly allow that to happen? That is the abominable thing. But what Duryodhana does is that Duryodhana spills the whole story. And he says that the Pandavas have repeatedly been humiliating me. He said that they intentionally arranged water for me to be there in the Maya Sabha, where I slipped and fell. And they arranged it in such a way that they would be watching when I would be slipping and falling. And they all laughed at me. It was that Draupadi who humiliated Karna in the Swayamvar. So he said that we never intended any harm. They had humiliated us, we just wanted to humiliate. But he said, how did we even get that opportunity? Yudhishthira calls himself Dharmaraj. What kind of man would gamble his own wife? Do you really want such a man to be the king? A person who cannot be responsible for protecting his own wife because of his uncontrolled urge to gamble. How can such a person be the protector of a kingdom? No kingdom will be safe under such a person. And the same incident, he spun in such a way, Balaram said that Yudhishthira, you are responsible for what happened to him. So now we may say that Balaram is omniscient, isn't it? Balaram is also Krishna. So how was Duryodhana able to persuade Balaram like that? But the point is that generally when the Lord descends to the world, the Lord does not always act as God. The Lord plays a Vraja-lila over here. And the overall morality of the Mahabharata is messy. That Mahabharata in many ways reflects the moral complexity of the real world. In real world, it is that what is right and what is wrong is not always very clear. So, that same incident, which is ultimately, from one incident, we cannot really evaluate the character of a person. But it is over a period of time, the same incident can be spun in different ways. Nowadays, we see these narrative wars that India-Pakistan had this Sindoor. Now, I was in America at that time. And the American media is, at least the way it was depicted was that it is not India which was victorious, it was Pakistan was victorious. And their argument is Pakistan is much smaller than India, Pakistan, the army is much lesser than India, and still India called off the war. So the war stopped. And from their perspective, now Pakistan's alliance with America has increased much stronger. India has been sent to the political wilderness. That is their perspective. So the whole thing is spun in a particular way that because of this war, India has alienated itself from the rest of from the influential part of the world, and Pakistan has endured itself. So it is not just with respect to this. Even the Iran war. When the war was called off, if you look at the Iranian media, I have some friends, devotees also in Iran, they say that actually Israel and America both attacked Iran and still Iran survived. This is the glory of India. And we will rise up. And our nuclear weapons, the uranium was not destroyed. So there is like a huge narrative difference of who won, who lost, who was right, who is wrong. The famous historian who said, history is permanently disputed territory. So, as they say, history is always written by the winners. But the losers also write their own history. And so anyway, so this moral complexity of real life that is depicted through Balaram's supporting of Duryodhana. So, in the overall storyline, if we see, yes, Duryodhana is definitely the evil person. But in the Mahabharata, the morality is complex. Now, going back to the rationalization that Duryodhana gave, that actually it was not that Draupadi deliberately humiliated Karna. It was the Swayamvar was for Kshatriyas. Now Karna, well, he had been included in the Kshatriya ranks, but it might have been better for him to first have asked, can I participate in this? Now by is assuming that he would participate, he set himself up for humiliation. Now it's unfortunate what happened, no doubt, but that was not intentional, and the whole Duryodhana slipping and falling was not a plan of the Pandavas. It just happened circumstantially. That the Maya Sabha, it was just meant to be entertaining. That there is this whole deception. The name of the Sabha was itself Maya Sabha. Met by the Maya Dana, and he had made it in such a way that there were various deceptions over there. So we could turn this whole story around and say that everybody had left after Rajasuya. Why did Duryodhana have to stay on over there? Isn't it? Everybody had gone. Duryodhana said, I want to examine the Maya Sabha more carefully. Well, everybody had been given a guided tour of that. So the thing more to examine. Like for him, it was already lot of envy was there within him towards the Pandavas. And by staying on and observing the majesty of the palace, he increases the envy even further. And thus he got himself into trouble. Yudhishthira gambled not because he had uncontrolled senses or he had any greed to gain any wealth. None of the reasons were there. He was simply deferential or respectful to his elders. Dhritarashtra had called him to gamble, and he felt that I don't want to disobey my elders. So the whole thing was spun in a particular way. So now that Balaram sided with Duryodhana shows that the Guru is sometimes extremely merciful and can be merciful to even people who don't deserve the mercy. Now, we can say that now some people absolutely don't deserve the mercy, but how do you know that in advance? One of the characters of the Guru is compassion. Now, of course, Balaram is not officially playing the role of a Guru. He's not giving spiritual knowledge. But the principle that mercy is not really mercy if it is not given to the unworthy. Isn't it? It is, if it's given only to the worthy, then it's not mercy. It's like a transaction. You show your qualification and you get this as a result. So, the spiritual master's rule. See, we often think from the disciple's perspective, I have to follow these rules, I have to obey my spiritual master, I have to do that. And all that is true, no doubt. But if you see from the spiritual master's perspective, actually extending opportunity and mercy and spirituality to potential disciples is a risk for the spiritual master. Because who will turn out how, we don't know. When Srila Prabhupada went to America, it was not just a physical risk that he took. That he went to America all over the year 70 and continued staying there, although on the flight he had got heart attacks. For him the bigger risk was that the people whom he engaged, whom he elevated, whom he empowered as his disciples and representatives, would they continue the tradition in good faith? Would they be able to actually practice the standards that were expected? Or would they let him down? So that risk that the Guru has to take in the course of sharing spiritual wisdom, that is demonstrated. Duryodhana, actually a lot of people take risk for Duryodhana. Balaram on one side, in one sense never loses hope in Duryodhana, and similarly Bhishma also never loses hope in Duryodhana. In fact, after Bhishma falls, the first thing that Bhishma says, all the Kauravas and the Pandavas assemble around Bhishma. He's lying on the bed of arrows. And even Duryodhana is in tears. Because Duryodhana also has great affection for Bhishma. The first thing that Bhishma says, "Oh child, you have known that I have never been defeated. And yet I have fallen now. Has I told you that any army which has Keshav on its side can never be victorious? Let my fall be the end of hostilities. Oh child, please talk with Yudhishthir and settle peacefully." So everything that he speaks, later on that we have this celebrated conversation between Yudhishthir and Bhishma, that is after the war is over. But Bhishma's first words after he falls are, "Duryodhana, stop the war." So for him, his hope is that somehow during the war, by seeing the Pandavas' prowess, Duryodhana will come to his senses. Similarly, Balaram is like that. Now, the last incident is where Balaram, in the final fight between Bhima and Duryodhana, Krishna tells Bhima to hit Duryodhana below the waist. And Krishna and Bhima breaks Duryodhana's thighs. And that's how he wins. And at that time, Balaram gets enraged. And he charges towards Bhima. He says, "You cheated. And that's how you won. You deserve to be killed." Now when Balaram charges with his mace, Bhima just holds his hand. Bhima has no desire to fight against Balaram. And at that time Krishna comes in between. And Krishna tells Balaram that you are supporting Duryodhana. But you remember what Duryodhana did throughout his life. He said that Duryodhana was a wicked person and he deserved to be killed for what he had done. And this was the only way Bhima could win. So, what does this mean? This is the only way Bhima could win? That Duryodhana had been given a blessing by his mother. And his whole body had practically become invincible. So yes, was Bhima's attacking Duryodhana below the belt unfair? Of course it was unfair. Now when we say Krishna told it, so it's unfair. But that is not the morality that anybody will accept, except those who accept Krishna's words. And significantly, the Mahabharata doesn't use this reasoning. The Mahabharata, what is its reasoning? And Krishna said this was the only way he could have won. So to give a rough parallel, the cricket match is a bowler, very good bowler is bowling. But the rules of the cricket match are changed in such a way that the batsman can never get out. Even the batsman is clean bowled, he's not out. Batsman like before the cricket, not out. Batsman is caught behind, caught by a fielder, not out. Batsman is run out, not out. So the poor bowler is running and coming and bowling, and the bowler is getting exhausted. And the batsman, when it is a batsman is just hitting the bowler here and there, and the ball is going all over. Now, that was Bhima's situation. Bhima fought like never before. At least 3 times during the fight. Bhima hit Duryodhana such blows that, not fairly, such blows that he would have, and any other warrior would have been just completely knocked out, if not killed by those blows. And absolutely nothing happened to Duryodhana. The blow was so forceful that Duryodhana was thrown away. But he was not hurt. And now Duryodhana was no ordinary warrior also. Just as Duryodhana was being hit by Bhima, Duryodhana was also hitting him. And at least at one particular point, Duryodhana hit Bhima so severely, Bhima was shaken. But Bhima, with great composure, managed to keep a poker face. That is, he didn't show any emotion. And if Bhima had shown any pain at that point, Bhima was so shaken by that mood, Duryodhana had followed up and attacked again, Bhima would have been killed at that point. But because Bhima acted as if he was unaffected, Duryodhana was momentarily shaken. What happened? I have a blessing. Does he also have a blessing? How is he not affected by that? So it was that point. See, Bhima had taken a vow that I'll break Duryodhana's thigh. But his original plan had been, I will defeat Bhima in a fair fight, and then I will break his thigh. But so in the immediate context, what Bhima did was unfair. But in the bigger context, the whole match had been made unfair for Bhima. So it's like if you make the extraneous influences there, that it's like there is no way Bhima can win by a fair means. So what is he supposed to do then? Is he supposed to be just fight and fight till he is beaten to death? No. So it's like if a bowler, if you change the rules of a cricket match, by which the batsman can never get out. So what is the bowler supposed to do? Exactly. Just hit the batsman and hit the batsman get tired. So, again, the messy morality of real life. So, in the real life, actually, what is right and what is wrong, there will always be debates about this. So, when Krishna explained, this was the only way the Pandavas could have. So, Balaram is not at all satisfied. Says, Krishna, you, as usual, you can just play with words and you can convince everyone. I am not convinced. Duryodhana was killed unfairly. He walks away now from there. But the point is that when Balaram opposes Krishna, it is not that opposition indicates enmity. See, this is a key lesson that the Krishna-Balaram relationship demonstrates. That there can be opposition. Now we make a plan and somebody opposes that plan. Why are you going against me? Immediately we start thinking that you are against me, you are my enemy. So opposition is not enmity. The point is, the whole the Mahabharata's mood and the Mahabharata storyline, which is partly also described in the Bhagavatam, is that dharma is very difficult to discern. Dharma se tattvam nihitam nuvaya. It's difficult to discern. And that's why even two people as illustrious as Krishna and Balaram, can have differences about what is dharma. And therefore, what we learn from this is that sometimes we may have to make some decisions and somebody else may oppose that decision. With respect to serving Srila Prabhupada, everybody wants to be faithful to the tradition, everybody wants to share Krishna consciousness. But two people who may be very devoted may still have difference of opinion about whether something should be done or something should not be done. So we can have opposition and we can have fierce opposition. But we don't have to become enemies. We don't have to consider, because the material world is a messy place. And in facing the material world, what strategies do different people will come up with of how to deal with it can always be different. So although Krishna and Balaram had differences of opinion, they never became enemies of each other. At the spiritual level, in relation to Vrindavan, they were completely united. Facing the material world, Kurukshetra, they had divisions, differences. But despite the differences, their friendship, their fraternal friendship always remained. So I'll summarize. I discussed 3 main points today about Lord Balaram. The first was in terms of Tattva. That we discussed very briefly. How Balaram is the Guru who guides us in our spiritual journey. If we consider Balaram as Tattva and Lila, then Tattva is a Guru. So Balaram guides us as long as we are impure. And then once we become pure, then it is Radharan who guides us in our service. That is in the spiritual world, in the Daivim Prakasmashika. Then in terms of Leela, we discussed primarily the Vrindavan to Mathura transition. How during that time, Krishna faced a huge emotional challenge. That is, that he had to leave Vrindavan for the good of the Vrajavasis. And he was misunderstood for that. And how Balaram helped him to negotiate that, to navigate that, and to emerge through that. So how Krishna was all alone, and suddenly the small child, he was thrust out of Vrindavan and thrust into the complex dynamics of a metropolis like Mathura. And especially when he was in Avanti, there he was in an environment like Vrindavan, and his memories of Vrindavan were even more. The emotional challenge of separation from Vrajavasis. That's where Balaram was there as the one constant in his life. So life will change, but our friends, if they are unchanging, they are constant, and that can help us to move ahead in our lives. And then we discussed about the challenge of facing Kurukshetra. So the messy moral complexity of life, of the world, is illustrated when Krishna bonds with Arjuna and Balaram bonds with Duryodhana. So there can be different perspectives. The Balaram's bonding with Duryodhana was an example of the Guru's mercy on the unworthy. Now the Guru takes a great risk in favoring those people who might let the Guru down, and sometimes it does happen. So even the final incident where there's a difference of opinion, that shows how Dharma, what is the right thing to do. Dharma is tough to know. What is right and what is wrong. But what is important is that even when there are differences about what to do, we should ensure that just because we are opposed does not mean that we are enemies. Krishna and Balaram had differences of opinion, but they never became enemies. They are still the best of friends. So let us pray to Lord Balaram that he empowers us with the strength to be firm in our bhakti, and also to be understanding and tolerant in doing our service in the world and dealing with differences while we are doing the service. Shri Balaram ji ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.